He'd been raised from the dead. A new day came upon the people who had gathered there at the tomb, but they hadn't yet realized it. They hadn't yet fully realized that Jesus had come through the portal of death and into a new life. They gathered there at the tomb, full of anticipation, though not of a resurrection, but anticipation of bringing spices and perfumes to anoint a dead body, because that's what they anticipated and they thought would be there at the tomb. Isn't that what it is when you're at a tomb, when you go to a graveside? It's death. It's not life. At least for them then, as they would gather, and so many people in the world today would gather at a tomb, only expecting to see a death, not a life. But it's the new day. Jesus proclaimed it would be a new day and a new time coming, a new day, a new life, and a new way for everybody. But they came and they couldn't quite yet see it, because it takes us time to see such new things taking place, because they had been a people who had known that when there's crucifixion, there's death. That's the way it works. Crucifixion leads to death. So they came, that was their anticipation, with only seeing the results of the crucifixion that they had witnessed on those nights earlier. Because the mind, it sets itself clearly on what you anticipate and you think. It is the way that it always has been. It is the way it always will be. That's where Mary was, the Marys, when they were there at the tomb, expecting to anoint a dead body. They were there, filled with fear, when something unexpected took place then. It filled them with a fear and an anxiety in such a way that all they could do is run and couldn't find the words to speak, because something happened that they didn't anticipate. And it was this whole mixture of the way things had always been and now something new emerging here. Hard for the mind to just quite comprehend it and to wrap all around it. What does the heart do with that? When you got grief and your heart's breaking, and yet there's something new happening. You're not quite sure how to receive it and what to do with it. It takes a bit for the mind to work something like that through. It is true for us. Anytime we encounter such significant change and the world around us alters, it takes us a while to get our bearings straight. It takes us a while to get our senses about us so we can know what's happening and how we fit into it. So it was with the Marys gathered at the tomb, and it would come to be the rest of the disciples. They too needed to have a shift of thinking, a shift of their perception about a new way that was emerging and coming about. And this new way was so strongly significant and so life-altering and shifting that it would take quite some time for that to happen. It would take a long time for them to rethink and retrain the eye to see something new, the mind to think in different ways, the heart to feel a new way. So it is for us. When we have a time in our lives in which things need to shift, change needs to happen, God is around us working and the Spirit is strong, it still takes us some time to be able to shift from old ways of thinking and being and doing into something brand new. No matter how wonderful it looks, and it is, and no matter how much hope and want and desire we have for that to take place, it takes us some time to be able to work it through in our lives and to be able to live into that. Because it's often then when a change and a shift happens and we want it so badly and we want to work into that new way of life that we'll just keep going back to the old way sometimes. Even if the old way is harmful, hurtful, and dysfunctional, we'll kind of slack off into another way of living that we're more comfortable with, that we're more familiar with. That's our journey in life too. It takes us a while to grasp something brand new and then to fully embrace it. And then to let that new life, that new day, that new way take shape in our lives so that it becomes familiar to us, and then we can live it and work it. That place where we will find ourselves before we fully embrace that new way, it's a time of struggle. It's a time of challenge. That's where the Marys were finding themselves, and the disciples too. They had to struggle with this. No birth happens without struggle. All birth happens because we've wrestled and we've struggled with it. All new life happens because we have grappled with something new that is significant anyway. And so may it be that we will grapple with Mary and with Peter and with all of the other disciples with this new reality that Jesus brings to us, that even today, thousands of years later, we are still in our own hearts, in our own homes, in our own world, wrestling with this one. What does it mean to come to new life? What does it mean to be resurrected? Maybe we'll easily think about that with Jesus and think, well, that was Jesus. It was his resurrection, right? God can do anything, and God does anything, and all power is within the hands and heart of God. Of course, God, resurrection and new life. But that gift is offered to all of us. What does the gift mean to you? The resurrection gift. Wrestle with it. Let it stir within you. I remember as a youngster, the lesson was learned then, but needed to be learned again and again, and I'm still learning it. It's the lesson that when I had a new chore to do, a new job that I was able to do, it was to take care of the farmer's chicks up the road. Well, he wasn't really a farmer. It was the old farmhouse in the community that he had and started selling off properties to develop the neighborhood around, but there was still an aspect of farm there, for he had a chicken coop on his property where his house was. And my job there would be to take care of the chicks and the chickens and the hens and to take care of that chicken house, that chicken coop. I would need to go in and feed the chickens and water them and give them their vitamins and take care with gleaning the eggs so carefully and cleaning out the chicken coop. That was my job to do. I did it with diligence. I did it with care. It was something that I wanted to do well for this man, and it was a job that I had that I got a little bit of a paycheck for. And it was something that I just wanted so much to do in the right way, and I just gave myself into it. And after a while, I thought, maybe I'll ask if I can have one of the empty places for a chicken, and I can have my own. And so he did. He said, sure enough, Dan, you could do that. You've proven yourself worthy of doing a good job. And so he gave me a hen, and she laid eggs, and I made sure she was taken care of, and I did as he taught me to do. I turned those eggs just as they needed to be in the way that would bring, the hatching of the chicks. And I watched and I waited and I marked in the calendar the days that it would come and when that would finally be there. And I came back from school one day, and sure enough, the chicks had begun to break away from the shells. It began to peek through. It was an amazing thing to see. You know about it, but then to see it happening right before your eyes, it's a birth that takes place. And for a youngster, I was wide-eyed with it. But there was one egg that nothing was happening with. It was still, it was quiet. And I asked about it, and I was told sometimes it is that an egg is a dud. It doesn't, but sometimes it really is that you just got to be patient. You just got to wait. All things happen in their own timing. Just be patient. Well, a couple of days later it was when a Saturday morning I got up early and I went there to the chicken coop and looked in, and sure enough, that little chick had pushed its way through the shell, and it was just trying so hard to get out. It needed help, I thought. I thought, you should, but then I was told no. Because the chick needs to struggle with it, needs to struggle to get out, because that's somehow in the nature of life itself. To have life and to be able, you've got to fight for it, you've got to want life. You got to want it enough to break through the shell and to get out. For that chick to live and to have a healthy life, you got to let it struggle to survive and to have life and to want it. That very lesson right there is one to always know and learn and keep a hold of. You always got to fight for that which has been given for you as a vision, as a calling, as a place to enter into a brand new way and a brand new life. And so the Marys show up at the tomb, and the stone was rolled away. You might ask, well, it had to have been rolled away in order for Jesus to get out. That's a common thinking. In order for Jesus to have risen and to come out of that tomb, don't you think somebody would have had to roll the stone away? The stone wasn't rolled away so Jesus could get out of the tomb, because Jesus was able to walk through any closed door. Any door that was locked, he was able to just go right on through it. The stone was rolled away so Marys could see it, so that we could look in and peer inside and see new life, so that we could peer inside and see that indeed the resurrection has taken place. The resurrection of Jesus the Christ came from this power from within. A power from within Jesus the Christ, the power of resurrection gifted to him by God through him and fully to be one with God. And the resurrection came in all of its force from a closed tomb in a closed place. You see, that which is struggling from within and expands and just comes from out of the tomb, out of any place that you would find yourself locked within and wrestling and grappling with it. If it's a vision given by God and a hope and a dream that God has placed within for a new opportunity and a new life and a new day and a new way for you in your life, let it happen and let that burst come through, and you will come out of that place where you've been entombed, closed off, held back. But it's the power of God from within that you discover, that you begin to dream about and know and want and desire and have a hunger and a thirst for it like nothing else. And when that is for you, that want for a new life and a vision for a new day and a new life for yourself, it will be from the power of God from within you exploding and coming forth, and you too will come forth from any place of a tomb, from any place that you too would experience being held back and held down in any kind of a way, because you are gifted the opportunity of a new day, a new life. Receive the gift. Know the dream that God has for all of us.